It's an American icon, a legendary invention born in the USA. And like a musical shot heard around the world, it's now synonymous with the driving sound of rock and roll. Here at Gibson Guitar, they've been making this, the Les Paul solid body electric guitar, for about 50 years. Now, how does an electric guitar work? Well, to answer that question, we're going to take you through the manufacturing process with a special emphasis on the heart of the electric guitar, the pickups. The magnetized wire coil that turns a strum into music. Yeah, electric guitars look and sound cool, but they're nothing like their ancient ancestors. More than 3,000 years ago, guitar-like instruments turned up in Egyptian paintings. Early forms of what would become the modern guitar probably date back to 16th century Spain. With their wide bodies, long necks, and unconventional string arrangements, they didn't look much like today's instruments. But by the mid-19th century, the six-string classical guitars we know it had taken form. An acoustic guitar generates most of its sound not from the strings, but from the soundboard. Here's how. Plucking the tightly stretched strings causes them to vibrate. These vibrations travel through the bridge and get the whole soundboard vibrating. The guitar's hollow body then amplifies the vibrations of the soundboard. The hollow body design is a pretty ingenious low-tech way of making a guitar louder. But as time went on, guitar players and bands couldn't compete against louder instruments, so they looked for new ways to crank up the volume. They found their answers in electronics. In 1931, George Beecham introduced the first commercially successful electric guitar. Its electromagnetic pickup is essentially the heart and soul of electric guitars as we know them today. Here's how it works. You've got a magnet wrapped with wire placed beneath the steel strings. Pluck a note on a string and it vibrates at the specific frequency for that note. This vibration causes changes in the magnetic field, which in turn generates a tiny current in the wire. Run that current to an amplifier, and you've got yourself the sound of an electric guitar. Beecham's guitar, with its long neck and small round body, was nicknamed the frying pan. It was a Hawaiian-style guitar designed to be played in your lap. But when musicians tried to use pickups on their hollow-bodied acoustic guitars, they ran into problems. Here's why. On hollow bodies, sound waves from the speaker caused the whole top of the guitar to vibrate. This also vibrated the pickups, causing unwanted distortion. The result was a nasty squeal called feedback. In 1941, a guitarist named Les Paul took matters into his own hands. Since too much vibration was the problem, he decided to build a guitar that would do just the opposite, vibrate as little as possible. He mounted two pickups, strings, and a neck onto a 4x4 solid block of pine. He called his heavy beast the log. By 1952, Les had partnered with the Gibson Guitar Company, which had been making instruments since the turn of the century. The result was an electric guitar with a solid wood body that looked like today's models. Its incomparable, warm, powerful sound and playability would eventually make the Les Paul guitar a favorite of Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Jimmy Page, and many other of the world's best guitarists. Gibson now makes all Les Paul guitars at its Nashville plant. This guy, Tom Montgomery, oversees the whole five-step process. It all starts with the wood. All right, so here we have the kiln.
Yep.
This is mahogany wood in here?
Mahogany.
Okay, and what is the purpose here?
We try to get all of our wood so they're in equilibrium with each other. What we're trying to do is reach a final moisture content of somewhere between 8 and 10%. You don't want to have a piece of 14% moisture going with a 9% or that kind of thing. They'll move at different rates. They won't be compatible with each other, so we try to get everything within that target.
Depending upon how much moisture is in the wood, it's dried anywhere from 7 to 45 days. After that, it gets cut into blocks that will form the body of the guitar. In the Les Paul standard model, a matching maple top gets glued to the mahogany. Okay, so we have the two types of wood here.
Yeah.
They're glued together. Now why maple and mahogany?
Well, a few reasons, actually. One of them is just for sheer aesthetics. Pretty piece of maple on top, going on a mahogany back. The two things glued together, the maple top helps brighten the sound a little bit than what just a solid piece of mahogany would be.
Okay, so it does affect the sound.
It does affect the sound, to be sure.
The mahogany and maple give the Les Paul a warm and rich sound. Less dense woods resonate more and provide different sound qualities. Gibson's rival, Fender, for example, uses lighter woods like alder and swamp ash for the bodies of their famed Stratocasters. This gives the Strat its signature clear bell-like tones. Now we're ready for the next step. The body is carved on a computer-controlled router and then finished on sanders. A guitar's body, however, is just one of the many elements that create its sound. Another critical choice is the design and construction of the neck. Okay, so we got a little bit of danger here. This guy, he obviously has to be on top of his game.
He has to be on top of his game. We typically, as you can see, it's a 10-quarter piece of mahogany. It's a really good wood for a
Why
neck.
mahogany? That's just the best for the neck?
A couple reasons. It's a piece of wood that's very easy to work with, it's very stable, and it's also very beautiful. And all three of those things contribute to the reason why we use this wood.
So this will affect the sound of the guitar as well.
Ultimately, yes, it does.
Got it. Mind if I try it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, is this going to kick? The dense mahogany in the Les Paul's neck helps to create its full, warm sound. But over at Fender, they use maple for their Stratocaster's neck, which contributes to its clear, bright tones. Even the way these woods are cut makes a difference. So you notice we went with the grain, if you saw that. That promotes stability and it affects the overall sound of the guitar. Now that the body and the neck are in their final form, they're ready to be fitted together. Coming up next, we crank it up to 11. We've seen how the neck and body of Les Paul guitars are created. Now it's time to put the two together. Gibson precisely carves every Les Paul neck to ensure maximum contact with the body. The goal is to join the two pieces so closely together that they'll act like one. This technique gives Les Paul their famed ability to sustain notes longer than rival guitars. Fender bolts the neck and body of a Stratocaster, producing less contact between them. This method may lose a bit of sustain, but adds a touch more stability. Gibson, however, sticks with its more labor-intensive technique. Now that the Les Paul is starting to look like a guitar, it's time to make it sound like one. Scott Sarge Cole makes sure Gibson's pickups do what they're supposed to, and do it well. He showed me how today's basic pickup works, with fundamentals that haven't changed much over the past 75 years.
What I have done is I've made a simple pickup here, and what this is nothing more than copper wire wrapped around the magnet itself with lead wires attached to it. So what I'm going to do is plug this in and bring it within proximity of the string and let you see how that works.
Changing the amount of wire or the power of the magnet affect the output of the pickup. So the amount of times that the copper wire is actually wrapped around will change the sound.
Sure. What it will do, basically what we have here is a rock and roll guitar, your typical rock and roll guitar, and our standard sets of humbucker pickups. You can see what the volume is there. These have a lot more copper wire in it and a more powerful magnet. So as we get to that, you can see how much difference there is in the volume.
Now it's time for the final assembly. The pickups are installed, as are the tuning pegs, electric wiring, and controls. Finally, the guitar is strung. The result of all that hard work is one of the world's best-sounding electric guitars. Far cry from the Egyptian instruments 3,000 years ago. About 1 million Les Paul guitars have been sold since 1952, which makes this man Gibson CEO Henry Jeskowitz very proud. I was so happy to learn the process of how you make an electric guitar and actually how it works.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we have actually made one guitar extra today as a result of your being here, and it's a gift to you.
You mean that?
So we have one.
This is a keeper? I am absolutely not worthy, but this will encourage me to take more lessons, that's for sure.
Well, you know, how about if we play something?
Yeah, well, how about the theme song to the show?
I think that would be very appropriate.
It's simple enough. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.